Justin, Natasha, hey, congratulations for your film, Motion Detected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's such a wonderful thriller itself. So let's ask the question that we always ask. Justin, where the original idea came from for this film?
Let's see. The original idea came from our co-director, co-writer Sam Rosemy had a alarm system at his house that kept giving him faulty motion detected alerts, right? And so he would be checking his, back house office in the middle of the night because at 3 a.m. he's getting woken up by a motion detected alert, which turned out to be nothing there. But the idea was, what if there was something there and it was like a haunted evil system trying to manipulate you?
And Natasha, what drew you into this project? This seems like a very challenging project for you to star in.
Well, it was a challenge, but it was one of those challenges that make you grow as an actor and make you grow as a person. And Justin, he was the one who brought me into the project and got me excited about it because I had already worked with him before once on a short film that we did. And, suddenly, he's just reaching out. He's like, hey, so we have a project called Motion Detected. And I'm like, where do I sign? It's, I trusted the project from the get-go, from the beginning. And, I was excited to work with Justin and work with Sam, and they're just an awesome creative force. So I just trusted the script and their idea of who Eva was, and we just developed her together, and it was just such an awesome creative process, of us coming together and working on this film, and it was just one of those films that really change you in many ways, and this was definitely Motion Detector was that for me. So I'm very, very happy to have starred in the film and to have worked with such awesome creatives.
So that begs the question, Justin, what actually came first, the house or Natasha?
Oh, Natasha definitely came first. Yeah, 100%. So we had this idea and we had written a kind of a short film proof of concept for it. And we worked on another project, as Natasha was mentioning. And after working with her, we didn't have any casting in mind for this other thing. And she was in a short film where she didn't even have a line. She was like a torture victim. And we were like, well, what about her? So we started talking to her about it because we had such a great working relationship on set on the previous one. And it was kind of like, I think she's game to do what we already asked her to do. She would be totally game to do this. And she's amazing. And also, you had the added benefit of like building her own background of being Mexican American to kind of inform some of the character pieces that we needed, right? Because we had an idea, right? And we had a character who's being preyed upon, but we don't really know who that character is yet, right? And so we kind of took her background. She's from Mexico City. She's moving to LA, right, where we're filming. And then through our location manager later, we ended up finding the house, which is kind of a different story on its own. But Natasha was definitely first.
Natasha, tell as he mentioned, tell us how you crafted Eva to be your own character and getting to the headspace of this character that was going through a wild emotional ride, because I want to say you were 95% of this movie.
That sounds about right. Um, so I definitely infused different aspects into who Eva is, and definitely my cultural background, as Justin mentioned, I am Mexican American, so I I drew on a lot of experiences that I've already had, plus conversations that I've had with other people close to me, and also through Justin's direction. And we just worked together on creating Eva. But also, it just felt like a very natural a very natural process for me, to get into character, to get into her mind and her descent into terror, into destruction. And, she was just in such a vulnerable state emotionally, psychologically. And, I had to be honest with my character and what she was going through. And, staying in character, I've said this in previous interviews, staying in character for me was something that, didn't mean I was just a character on set. It meant I took Eva home with me. I was Eva, for the duration of this film and a little time afterwards as well. And, but that's also just part of playing a character like Eva that's been through so much trauma. You have to do these characters justice. And, you have to be willing to tell an honest story and tap deep into emotions that, sometimes you don't want to because they're just so deep and complicated. But, once you actually tap into those emotions, you're able to create a character like Eva.
Wow. Justin, in the case for a film like this, being an indie production, you have a limited budget, but you want to basically create sort of the sci-fi elements because you have a villain that's a smart AI, and sometimes I'm watching this film, I question the name that you chose for Diablo controls for this. But could you address some the independent production on something like this and the challenges?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you don't have a lot of support out there, right? We reached out to a lot of our friends and people kind of in the industry that were like, hey, how could we do special effects for a film like this? And we didn't get a lot of helpful answers. We did have a guy who did some work for us. And with a small budget, we couldn't get really that far. And after kind of showing it to some of the EPs and stuff involved, I think their feedback was like, well, we need to kind of up the effects a little bit. So we had to go back to the drawing board and kind of learn. And so I ended up doing quite a bit of the After Effects work myself, which is, it is fine, but it wasn't ideal. And I think it's like part of independent filmmaking is everyone's wearing a ton of different hats, right? But it's like some of the stuff is very difficult to bumble your way through. And I think the special effects turned out, like I said, fine. But I just, I think what a film like this needs is to have a kind of expert around who can give a lot of guidance on that specific piece of it, especially because what you're mentioning, it's like the sci-fi part of it is kind of the interesting piece, and it can go, the special effects and that part of the storytelling can go kind of a long way if you do it right, and it can be kind of a pretty special thing. And I don't think it's that hard to get there, but it was just kind of out of the reach of what I think where we wanted to land. Ultimately, I think we're happy with it. But I think a film like this really just screams like we want really high-end effects, right? Like I think while we were in the development phase, we were watching, movies like The Invisible Man, which has a pretty big budget, and you look at some of the stuff that they did, and some of them were simple, and some of them were very, very amazingly high end, right? And we just couldn't get there on the budget that we had.
What was the number of production days for yourself for filming?
We did 15 days straight, and they were very, very gnarly days. They were at minimum probably 15 or 16 hours. So they're very, very tough. Yeah. We had a really dedicated, cool team of people who are all hungry to make something work, right? And we were living in this house, basically. We had people sleeping there. And so it just felt like a family for that amount of time.
Wow. Natasha, I feel so sorry for you. That must have been 15 grueling days. I don't even know if you even took a break.
Well, you know what? I didn't. But I will tell you something, Gabe. I would do it all over again. So for me, just being Eva and having, that opportunity where, you get to grow as an actor, with experiences like this, because they were grueling hours. It was, I reiterate what Justin said, it's 15, 16 hours of just being a character and, still going home and still, being that character, and it's a rinse and repeat and let's do it all over again the next day. And this is what we're going to be doing. This is the dynamic. And I just loved being part of that dynamic, and everybody just worked so hard. And I think we have a great film. There was so much that went into this. There were so many creatives who just, talented, awesome human beings, creatives were just like, we want to do this. We want to be a part of this. And I think that's also the beauty of an independent film and independent filmmaking. I think that you really come together as a unit, as a family, like Justin mentioned, and you create something together. And I think that that's one of my favorite things about being a part of an independent film. It's the closeness. It's that connection that you have with everybody, because you're all there for the same reason. You're there to make a film, and you're there to do it with energy and happiness and everything that goes into it. And that you're going to be working hard hours, and you're also going to have to neglect your family for a certain time and other commitments, because you really have to give 110% of yourself into creating a film, especially an independent film where you have limited resources. And I think that we have a successful film. I think it's everything I hoped for it to be. When I read the script, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is gonna be a great film. And honestly, it is, and I'm proud of it. And I was just happy to be a part of it.
Justin, was the rest of the cast in with Natasha, especially like those video conference calls and stuff?
Oh, no, everything was filmed separately with the exception of every handheld device or device that you see on a laptop or whatever. There was no interaction. There was, me reading the dialogue of whichever character we were meant to be filming there. And so it was mostly Natasha speaking to like inanimate objects. Right.
Well, that must have been fun for you, Natasha, too.
Well, it was fun because you have to use your imagination, and that's like when you let sparks fly in your imagination, just like, you just really tap into it. And also working with, such an awesome cast like Carlo Mendez, who played Miguel, played my husband in the film. He's so great. He's such a force. And, working with him, this isn't our first film together. This is actually our second together. And, working with him, it was just so great because he was in character. I was in character. We're both, in the zone. And it was such a joy to watch him act. And also Caitlin McMullen, I mean, she's just a sweetheart and she's such a talent. And, we were lucky to have such great actors, come into Motion Detected. And, just working with them was also just, it was so, so lovely. Most days it was just me with the crew, and I'm just like having conversations with myself, everything's happening in my head. And then suddenly you have an actor on set and you're like, oh, another actor. and, and then just like, being able to play with them and you have our characters play with each other. And I mean, it was so wonderful. It really was, all of it.
It was almost like we were filming a comedy because one, I think we were just so out of our minds, tired and exhausted, but like, so many factors, right? We're shooting during COVID, by limitations of that and the limitations of the budget. We had a very small crew. So aside from the drudgery of like moving a million C-stands and moving lights around and pre-lighting everything and moving camera and all of that stuff, the Starbucks runs, emptying the garbage, all of that, right? When we got there and we're ready to film, whether it was just Natasha or it was Natasha and another character, the mood was always very joyful and fun. We're always having a really good time. So then when you have to switch and be like, okay, you're scared now. It was kind of like, okay, this is hard for a second, but then we got there, you know? So it was, like I said, going back to that family thing, it was like so amazing. So working with these actors, we had it was always like super fun and just kind of an amazing experience.
That is most wonderful. Well, one last thing before I depart, because I'm going to circle back to what I mentioned before. What's in the name? The security system called Diablo Controls. It's almost like you guys are making fun of the security AI system itself by calling it Diablo Controls.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like kind of tongue in cheek. It's also meant for the character to be like, oh, kind of take a pause because the serial killer in Mexico City was named El Diablo, and then Diablo Controls. I mean, it's also just like a moment of being in the genre, just so ridiculous that it's so dumb, but it kind of works at the same time, you know? So I kind of, we just kind of ended up liking that and going with that.
That's terrific. Well, this is a wonderful film. It is a joyful to actually watch it, and especially watching Natasha. It's almost like a one woman movie by itself. So congratulations for that part. So thank you very much for carrying this conversation for Motion Detected with us. Everyone should definitely check it out now. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Gabe.